Good morning, it is Brian here. It is the Expert Dojo show, and this show is just with exceptional entrepreneurs. It's like X-Men, but for entrepreneurs, with exceptional people who are building phenomenal businesses. And most importantly, there's actually two most importantlies here. The first one is that we have invested in this company. And this company I'm going to talk to you about today is absolutely brilliant. It's Rozzy Learning. I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff about it. And as somebody who has a kid, and I dearly wish that there would be a day that he would come home from school smarter. I really wish. Like, that's my great desire in the world. I know that with Rozzy Learning, he will be able to, and at least he's going to be able to find the right career in the future and be prepared for it, and they did it. Now, that's the first really important thing, and we're going to talk to Allison about why that's really awesome. The second important thing is it's Allison's birthday today. Happy birthday, Allison.
Thanks, Brian.
30 years old. I pray to go back to 30 years old. It's the best.
My friend jokes that I didn't make it to Forbes 30 under 30, but I still have time. So we might get there.
Hey, do you know what? I got a secret for you. Forbes 30 under 30 is rigged, okay? It's not that you're not great enough. It's that you don't have somebody who gets a phone call to say, hey, dude, can you give me like 3 people that could be on Forbes 30 under 30? And that's how it works. That's how it all works.
It's all rigged.
It's all rigged. It's all BS, and it's all terrible. But what's not rigged is it's your birthday.
I'm glad I get to celebrate it with you.
Oh, I'm chuffed. I'm delighted. This is the best ever. And I'm really happy because this is great because it's a very important day. I'm a big believer in lines in the sand for everything. I don't know why. I just love it. Like, I love January the 1st. January 1st is like epic, where I say, okay, I'm going to do great things, and I actually generally do them. Or I love when we get to the first of the month, or I love when we get to a Monday, or I love when just stuff starts and I can start the measurement all over again. And the great thing about 30 is, and actually I had it when I was 50. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest 10 years of my frigging life. I mean, I embraced it like it was my son coming towards me. So I think 30 is going to be epic for you. By the way, for me, it was like a Morgan Freeman 50. But for you, it's going to be you are going to build a unicorn 30s.
Exactly. I'm really excited.
So can we tell everyone, what was the genesis of Rozzy Learning? Where did it come from? Because you've built this incredible business. You've got $500,000 a year in revenue. You've got thousands of teachers all over the world who love your platform enough to pay for it every single month. You are impacting kids on an immeasurable basis. And we're going to go into what you do and how it works and why it's so important within the education system today, especially for kids who do not want to have a sucky job when they grow up, which is all kids. But unfortunately, in the current system, something goes wrong and everybody does get a sucky job that they hate. And Rozzy is determined to stop that today. But where did this idea come from?
Sure. So I think we're a great example of we really kind of fell into something. So I was working in a neuroscience lab studying type 1 diabetes in children, and my best friend was getting her PhD in education. And she called me one day and said, hey, do you want to write a children's book? I'm feeling kind of burned out from school, and I really want to do something creative. And so we decided to write this children's book called Maggie, the Magnifying Glass, for 2- and 3-year-olds. And we hired an illustrator. She ended up being crazy, stole some money from us. That whole thing happened. But we had this really amazing book at the end. And we started bringing it to schools. And we started showing it to preschools and kindergartens. And there were 2 pages in the book that talked about careers at the very end. So the whole book had nothing to do with careers except these last 2 pages. And all the teachers and parents kept going back to that page and saying, wouldn't it be great if we could talk about careers with kids who are 2 to 5 years old. And how do we do that? How do we get them excited about this? There has to be a way to do this. So luckily, my co-founder, because she was a teacher and had worked in curriculum, she knew how to write curriculum for schools. And so we created our own curriculum that centered around bringing career learning and skills and this type of knowledge into kindergarten to 8th grade classroom, so that we could really start at these younger years where teachers and parents just felt like there were no resources for them.
Brilliant. And then, so I want to go back to the crazy illustrator. Every single startup in the world has a crazy illustrator. And I think that's the great measurement of phenomenal entrepreneurs, is the ability to deal with all of the schmucks that are in your way as you're building a phenomenal company, because it wears you down, right? You have one after another, after another, after another, after another. What's your secret to being able to do that? To be able to get past those people who just grind the life out of the existence of startups, but still be able to create a great company afterwards?
I think the first thing I try to do is laugh when I can. I think that's underrated, that you have to let things roll off your back. That's something I think comes with age and experience, is that I can't take things too seriously or too personally. So when it comes to crazy illustrators, or finding out like a salesperson just didn't show up to work one day because they had a nervous breakdown and never called us again, like, just things happen that are crazy when you own a business and you don't really believe that it happens in real life, because sometimes you think, okay, am I in a movie right now? But I think you really have to just kind of take it with stride and always go back to, what is your ultimate mission? And for us, we're very client focused. We've always focused on our clients and our customers, and that becomes number one. So as long as it's not affecting them, I can deal with all the crazy. And then if it starts to affect them, then I look at ways how not to apologize, be upfront with the clients, but 9 times out of 10, the crazy doesn't even make it to them. So it's all okay.
I love it. I love it. And then, so the client is which? The client is the child, the client is the teacher, or the client is the parent?
Yes. So, I think in our case, it's everybody. We have to have a multi-dimensional approach to Rozzy, which makes sales and marketing more complicated, but it also makes it more fruitful, because not only are we inevitably impacting students and giving them the ability to see why what the heck they're learning in school matters later in life to their careers in the real world, but we're also giving parents and teachers this knowledge. I think the world has changed so quickly. It used to be you became a doctor or a lawyer or a firefighter, and there were these very clear career paths, and parents and teachers are just desperate to learn how they can expand their own knowledge to impart this to their kids. And so, we take a multi-prong approach there.
And how do you do that? So I'm a child. I am 9 or 10 years old, and obviously I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I don't even know what growing up is. So you create a story which would be inside the type of story that I would read ordinarily, and then you add a slant to it. Maybe if you can just walk us through a little bit about the genius behind getting into the minds of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds and helping mold them into a place where they can follow their dreams.
Sure. So for us, it's all about context. So the first thing we do is everything is introduced to the kids in terms of an adventure. So we always tell the kids, hey, you're going on an adventure now, and you're going to get to be a marine biologist and study ocean animals. So we pick topics that are really tangible to them, especially with the young kids, things like animals and buildings and planes and trains and automobiles, the things that they see in daily life, so that they can really understand it. And then we say, okay, now you're going to get to be this marine biologist. We're going to tell you the tools that they use or the things that they study. And we really kind of take them on this real adventure through, okay, a marine biologist is going to study what dolphins eat. And in the process of them learning about dolphins and learning about underwater robots that can watch these dolphins, they're learning about what an ecosystem is. And so not only are we teaching them the underlying fundamental a child needs to understand about the ecosystem, they're also learning about all the ways that this information matters to people that they look up to, such as a marine biologist. And now that kids are on social media so much and TV, there's just so much content out there that kids see these careers in the real world all the time. They just don't have anyone who's helping them make a connection. And so at the end of the day, Rozzy is about making all of those connections for the kids so that it seems real to them and they can actually see themselves in these careers.
I got you. And how many careers do you have?
Oh gosh, I think we feature probably 100 different types of careers, and we do everything from scientists and engineers to product designers and urban planners. So it was really important to us that a kid wouldn't walk into our learning our program and say, hey, like I like art and music. None of this is for me. This is only for kids who like science or technology. We want to reach all kids.
So do you have entrepreneur in there? Uh-huh.
We do have entrepreneur. We have several entrepreneur lessons. Those are always a favorite, I think, because of the popularity of Shark Tank and The Profit.
Yeah. So, of course, you've got a venture capitalist in there, right? Just, of course, it makes sense.
I don't know if they're ready for that yet. They haven't sold their souls yet.
Oh, I see. You're going to give them a job, which is one of their dreams, not of their nightmares. I forgot.
Exactly.
So how do you position the couple of entrepreneurs that you have? Just one kind of shape a Mark Cuban, and then another one shapes a Elon Musk, and you go one side is creative or another side, or what was your inspiration?
Yeah, so I think with like the little kids for an entrepreneur, I think we have one where they have to create like a pet store and they have to come up with different accessories and food that the pet store would have. And that one focuses on branding, for instance. So that's a great one where if you're a kid who really likes art and design, you can design, a billboard for your store or make an advertisement. And then with the older kids, we get into, they can be a business owner of a tech company and they do a wireframe for their own app. And so we really, I try to make it super relatable to them and also really fun.
Wonderful. And how long is each class? Or each profession, should I say?
Lessons are meant to be done in 20 to 60 minutes. So again, we want it, something that a teacher or a parent knows that the kid can get done quickly or in a manageable time frame. We also keep it low tech in the sense that it isn't intimidating for a child or for the adult who's involved. And so we make it super accessible in that way. It's also why we have had so much traction in other countries, such as India, where they don't have as much technology at their fingertips all the time. And then we always have a project at the end. So the kids really feel like every lesson ends with a product or a prototype or an idea that they can take and say, hey, I created something. This is mine. I have ownership over this.
It's so brilliant. And how many careers do you think you're going to end up making?
I think I would love to get to like 500 different iterations of careers, because I know for me, I always struggled with, I got this degree in psychology and women and gender studies. What can I do with this? There has to be more than just becoming a neuroscientist or a clinical psychologist or a professor. And so it's really my goal for kids to be able to see that all of these skills and interests that they have can translate to so many different types of careers.
And this is so brilliant. There's a part of me, you and me have been pretty close since I invested originally. And there's a part of me where, every time we speak, I think of another vested interest group that should be engaged with this. And I mean, I look at universities and think, if I'm a university, I want something like this to be successful, because I don't want schmucks in my university that are doing, like, all these people are doing degrees that really they're just doing because they ticked a box in a questionnaire to tell them that, yeah, I should do this and I'm going to spend 4 years of my life doing this. I mean, this is the vast majority of people who go to college. So wouldn't it be phenomenal if we started molding people from when they're very young to, what do you love? Like, what do you really, truly love? And by the way, what are you good at? Because if you just love it on its own, that's just a hobby, and that's fine. You can do that when you're rich. But if it's something that you love and you can be really good at, now you've got a vocation, you've got a profession, you've got something which you can change the world with.
Yeah, I think, I know Brian and you and I were talking about this before, that COVID in a way really opened up our thinking, that we really can go beyond just connecting with the schools and the parents, that there's so many different partnerships to create, whether it's with tutoring companies or care companies or universities or workforce development programs. I'm going to be talking with Stephen over in LA about working with LA's workforce development program, because I think we forget that we all started as kids and we all started learning so many of these skills when we were teenagers and when we were in middle school. I mean, I learned Photoshop when I was in middle school, and now that's something I do on a daily basis as a business owner, is make graphics. And so I think there's so many people that this can touch and that it can impact, that, the sky's the limit for Rozzy's ability to impact everyone.
So, really, this is why I love doing these podcasts sometimes, because the phone is turned off, the computer is out of the way, we're just talking, you and me, and we're going through it. And I just get hit with moments of inspiration based on things that you've said, which are probably things which are perfectly obvious to you, but they've just kind of hit me in the face like a Mike Tyson punch. And my most recent one, only seconds ago, was when you're talking about, yeah, we all want to be able to find our perfect career. So even though right now your material is very tailored for kids, there's a part of me that thinks that there's so many adults who are like 20, 30, 40 years old who have never gone through this process. And maybe, okay, it shouldn't look like it's Jimmy and Jenny and they're walking to the lake and saying, oh, there's a goldfish. It should be slightly more adult, but it doesn't need to be too much more adult, because we need to base this stuff down. We do not need to make it. And right now it's impossible for an adult to decide, what do I want to be? A recruitment agent? I want to be a builder. I want to be an electrician. I want to be here, because it's all too complicated. And by pulling it down, the exact thing that you're offering kids actually should be Rozzy Learning for everyone. And there shouldn't be a time in anybody's life that there's ever a moment where they don't want to find the career that they absolutely love. And to have a place that they can go to where they are continually researching the wonderful parts of careers and being able to go in deeper and deeper into them is actually a phenomenal resource for everyone. Everybody. Midlife crises, quarter-life crises, 21-year-old crises, 30-year-old crises, and child crises. Like, everybody should be continually renewing and reviewing, what is it that I truly love? What is it that I'm good at? What direction should I be going?
No, for sure. And I think, thinking back to the universities and the colleges, if you aren't in a business program or pre-med, I don't think colleges know how to help pipeline students into things. I remember when I applied to clinical psychology programs and I ended up not getting into any, I was in a crisis at 22 years old going like, what am I going to do with my life? Because I thought I could only ever do one thing. And again, the universities can have very outdated models. And so, something my co-founder and I have been talking about is kind of transitioning Rozzy to almost be in that dating app type of world where we can match interests to whether it's students or adults and show them different pathways based on what they're interested in, the skills that they have. And I think, like you said, you don't have to be in high school or elementary school not to know what you want to do and not to know what's out there. I hear about careers all the time I didn't know exist that could align to what I like. So I think, what's great about content and having the content and the curriculum background that we have is that we can create anything for anyone at any age, and it's all adaptable because we 100% own all of Rozzy's content. We make everything in-house, so we can adapt it as needed for so many different markets.
And you know what we should do as well? We should find every single investor that has kids everywhere and just give them a free Rozzy account for their kids, and then let their kids fall in love with Rozzy, and then the investment will flow in. I think you've got, you said it right at the very beginning. It's not content, it's context. The content is easy to provide. You already have all of that in place. Providing the context for those specific different groups to actually go after is huge. But right now, the beachhead is kids, and it's kids up to the age of 11 or 12?
Yep, up to, I would say, age kind of 13, 14. And, we've already discovered that a lot of high schools want to use our products, even that we thought were more gauged to middle school. They're saying, even at 16, 17 years old, the kids can still benefit from these age groups. Yeah. So we work in K-12 schools. We're now expanding into focusing on other types of markets as well. And we're excited to see how we can, keep growing.
Yeah, I think this is huge. And this is also a great story for investors. This is not a pivot in any way at all. We got our market, we killed it in that market. We're now adding on, we're increasing the amount of people, but we're going to create different context. So we've got different content for that context. And then we're going to go for older people and older people and older people until we've got Rozzy Learning for 80 and 90-year-olds who are still looking to find their perfect dream job. Like, how awesome would you feel when you get a 75-year-old granny who suddenly found her brand new dream job because she discovered it through Rozzy Learning? There's so much potential. Okay, so everybody gets it. I love this product. I think it's beautiful. I think its time has come. The world deserves Rozzy. We've had so many generations of miserable jobs which people have been pushed into because money has been the only principal thing at the end of the rainbow. And now we're actually looking at what's going to make life enjoyable, which means we can actually have good and decent lives for our kids. And who the heck doesn't want that? So let's speak about what you've raised, right? You've been through, obviously, we've invested money into you. You already had a previous institutional investor that put money into you as well, which was great. You've raised a couple of $100,000, which is fantastic. You brought your revenue up to 500 grand a year, which is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. You have maintained that even during the difficult times of schools through COVID. And then that's also opened up the opportunity that on top of what you're doing right now, you're also going to layer in direct to consumer with parents as well. Can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen with Rozzy over the next couple of years? Talk a little bit about what money that you're raising now, what that money is going to be used for, and how you intend to grow the company from $50,000 to $100,000 a month, from $100,000 to $1 million a month. And that's probably good enough for now.
So our main goal next year is to really make inroads into working with parents. So as you mentioned, we have validated ourselves in the schools. We work in some of the biggest school districts in the country, including Chicago Public Schools and New York City Public Schools, which are two of the biggest and most difficult to get into. So our goal is to keep growing that side, but really to get into the parent market and also start creating these strategic partnerships with tutoring and care-giving companies so that we can spend less money on distribution because they already have all of these huge distribution markets. So that, allows us to save money there. So the current round that we have open is for $1 million. And it's really to make headway into the parent side of things with more digital marketing and also to continue working on those strategic partnerships. And then just to do some tech upgrades so that it is more one-to-one customizable content and platform for the students. And really there is layering that interest inventory in that I mentioned. So our goal in the next 6 months is that students will be able to input what they're interested in, what their goals are, obviously ask them all of these things in child-friendly terms so that we can then push out to them content that is 100% aligned with what they want to do, but can also align with what a student or parent wants them to learn. And so this upgraded technology will just allow us to be 100% personalized for these different markets.
Beautiful. And you have to feel that you're going to be able to go from 50 to 100K just using what you have right now. You don't need, I mean, I love the fact that you're layering on different channels, that you're saying, hey, you know what, the schools are a channel. The consumer, the end consumer is the same, right? Which is, we're going to make sure that every single child in America and beyond has got access to the greatest careers in the world through their dreams, right? But we approach that through the schools, which has been tremendously successful so far. Approach it through the non-direct influencers, which are the folks like the tutors and all of those people out there, and influencers out there that the kids love. And then also go through the direct influencers, which are the parents themselves. And once you lock down all three, you have this bulletproof moat which nobody else can get into because everybody trusts Rozzy. And the other thing I love about Rozzy is just that it's so unique. It's so unique. There are no other platforms that I've seen anywhere that give this support to kids whereby you really tick the box of frictionless innovation. And frictionless innovation for me is when nobody's fighting you. You know, when the schools are fighting you, it's disruption and it's a pain in the ass. When the parents are fighting you because you're selling something that they don't believe their kid, it's same thing. Same thing with other providers. But actually everybody wants Rozzy in the mix because it makes them look better in the services that they're providing.
Exactly. And I think what's also great too is we have the potential to make partnerships with so many other companies, other education companies, other learning management companies, tutoring platforms. We, like you said, you know, that's frictionless there. We aren't competing with these people. And so it's a way for us to join in on them. And there are so many amazing ed tech VCs out there and other investors in private equity who own, you know, conglomerates of education companies. And Rozzy can just be a bolster there. And in no way are we competing. We're just making them look better by bringing in that career, real world content for them.
I agree. And then so that takes you to $100,000, maybe $200,000 a month. To go from $200,000 a month up to $1 million a month, will that require having additional age groups brought in, or can that be done within the existing age groups?
I think that can be done within the K-12 space. I think potentially doing more partnerships such as with universities and workforce development would definitely make that much easier, but not necessary because, again, I think my goal is to create partnerships that allow them to do all the work with distribution. So having the universities, having the platforms, having the workforce development and corporations who have hundreds of thousands of parents who work for them who all have kids. And that just allows us a much easier, again, frictionless point to get to the end user, which is the millions of kids that are out there.
Amazing. And then so as you grow it, you think with the existing team you're okay, or you feel you need to grow the team?
I think we definitely need to grow the team. I really want to bring on in the next year a CMO, so a chief marketing officer and a chief tech officer. I think one of the most important things as a CEO is to know your own limitations. I know Brian and I have talked about that with each other before. And I think those are two places where I can continue to, I'm growing my own knowledge and I've bootstrapped that all. But those are the two, I think, next hires for Rozzy.
Wonderful. And then the money that you're raising right now, is your preference to get that from institutional investors or strategics, or what's your thought process? And then after you raise that, how long do you believe that's going to last for, and how do you see your next raise?
Sure. I would love to have kind of domain specific experts in on this round. So ed tech VCs or ed tech investors. But I also think that's not necessary. I think people who have experience in SaaS products and consumer products can also be tremendously valuable, especially because our team is experts in education. So we don't necessarily need that. I think really having investors who understand SaaS-based companies and consumer-based companies is going to be, to our biggest advantage. And then I think this next round will be able to last for at least a year or two, if not more. I think my goal is to be able to organically and as economically as possible grow to that 50,000 users per month. Right now we're at about 10,000. So the goal is to get to that 50,000 users per month by next year. And this money can, well cover all of that.
Yeah. And the unit economics for those users is very good as well, right? How much do you charge them right now, and what's your cost?
Correct. So in schools, we charge about $2,000 when we're looking at an individual parent for a single child. That'll be more like a Netflix model, around $8, and individual teachers, it'll be more like $99 a year. So we've looked at our competitors. We know what pricing looks like. We know what customer acquisition should look like. What's great is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel on any of this. And so the unit economics of this can be pretty standardized.
In a weird way, I mean, you mentioned Netflix, like in a weird way, you can see your content growing and growing and growing to a level where it could become very real indeed for the kids.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing now, too, is a shift in education where a lot of the acquisitions now are more on the content side, that these private equity companies and these older education companies are seeing that they have pretty outdated content now that doesn't fit within the world that we live in, whether it's related to careers or knowledge or diversity issues. I mean, the world is changing so quickly in what kids need to be learning. And so what we're seeing now is acquisitions that are growing and more focused on the content side, not just on pure tech companies.
It makes sense. So I love the platform. I love the fact that we've invested in you. I love what you're bringing to the world and the fact that you've managed to build this with very, very little money to a very strong SaaS revenue product, which is recurring every single month, where the teachers are sticking with you. I love the fact that you can actually grow this into other age groups. The marketing channels just make sense to me. They seem like they're a natural extension of where you are right now. And I truly believe this company can be one of the edtech greats of the future with you at the helm of it. I do want to leave you with the last words. I'd like if you could share your website so everybody can go on to Rozzy, your email address, and then also final words to all of the investors on this call as to why Rozzy is such a phenomenal investment opportunity.
So our website is Rozzy, Rozzy, learningcompany.com. And my email is just Allison@RozzyLearningCompany.com. And I think this is the time to invest in Rozzy because we have a proven product, we have proven traction, and probably one of the hardest markets in any industry is ed tech. And so the fact that we have over 10,000 teachers, over 1,000 schools across the country proves that we really have something great. And now we're just looking to bring on partners who can help get us to that next level. And I'm really excited for what 2021 can bring.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year. It's going to be a 30 year.
Exactly.
Hey, Allison, you're going to rock. We're going to be right there with you all the way. Everybody listening, you know what to do. You've got our details. Reach out. If you're an investor, it's a great opportunity to have a discussion on. If you're somebody in the education space and you want to help, and you want to refer people, or you want to let your school know about it, all of the above. Yes, yes, and yes. This is a revolution, not even an evolution, so be a part of it. Thanks, Allison. To be continued.
Thanks, Brian.